Welcome everyone. Welcome to the third week of Do You Even Go Here box. We are tasting this guy. I just been informed that my email software must have gone haywire. So apparently you guys got two reminder emails. One of them was for Baya, the Cobalt Batya Hanan, which was from my Slovenian box. So that's the old one. Glad you guys caught on to that. But we're tasting this guy today. So 2022 Domaine Serol Eclat Granit, which means granite chip. Roannaise Rouge is what we're tasting today. So in case you were looking for that Slovenian wine, that's not in the box because that's from the old one. Yeah, I don't know what happened there, so sorry about that. A few announcements before we get started. Boge box. It's still open. That Boge box is gonna continue to stay open until I close it. Most likely we're gonna distribute that in January. The first tasting will probably begin in February. It may be end of January. But yeah, just plan on Boge box starting with February, and then I'll finalize everything in January and I'll get that rolling. But yeah, so that's still open. Let me know if you're interested or if you want to gift it to somebody. That may be a good gift idea. And if you have any questions, you have not participated in Boge box in the past, but you have any questions, let me know, and then I can answer any of the questions you may have. Secondly, speaking of wrapping up enrollment, I need to wrap up next month's enrollment ASAP. I'm gonna try to wrap up all the wines and everything by this Friday before Christmas. So which means I need to wrap everything up by tomorrow. So if you have outstanding invoice, let me know. If you're not planning on joining, then just let me know. If you are planning on joining, and just pay the invoice. I'm going to close all of that tomorrow. So just let me know so we can get that all started or settled. Besides that, this month we are donating 1% of our gross revenue to Eco City Farm. If you want to donate alongside 6 Foot Wine Club or learn more about what we do, you can check out the websites that's in the chat box. Any questions about anything? Oh, by the way, next month we are going to Austria. I don't know. In the winter time, I always think about Germanic Austrian wines. I mean, I love Austrian wines any time of the year, but particularly when it starts to get cold. But it's going to be not just Austria, just in a true 6 Foot Wine Club fashion. It's going to be just something that's a little bit different. There's a ton of Gruner, ton of Riesling that you can find. Austrian Riesling Gruner you can find in shops and anywhere. So I'm going to try to do something that's either a little bit different in terms of the variety or something that they're doing, just a little bit of tweak. There's a lot of cool, different shit that's coming out of Austria. A lot of young winemakers are kind of pushing the boundaries of what has been traditional while keeping on to tradition, but just pushing a little outside. So we're going to focus on that next month. But anyways, the next month is going to be all Austrian wines. So that's what we're doing. Any questions about anything before we go into the wine? Excellent. All right. For those of you who are just joining us now, I apologize about the 2 emails that went out, but this is the wine that we're tasting today. 2022 Domaine Serol Eclat de Granit Cote Rouge Rouge is what we're tasting today. Right. This is a really interesting region that we're going to, as you'll see on the map. So here's a map of France. Should be pretty familiar. And where we are, last 2 weeks we spent it down here in Roussillon, right? Côte Catalan was last week, which is right up against the Pyrenees mountain over here. And then we're in Roussillon the week before with the Cremant de Limoux. And then this week, we're moving up towards right here. It's pretty much kind of in the smack dab center of France. If you look at France as kind of, it's like a rectangular country. I mean, we're literally right in the middle of it. So this little area region is called Auvergne. No one really ever talks about Auvergne. This is kind of the region. When I first honestly thought about, that kind of a cheeky name of "Do you even go here" box, this is kind of what I was actually thinking about in my head. This kind of fits perfectly into this month's theme. Because if you look at this river, which is a Loire river that runs through here, right? This is Loire. This is the top north end of or the top of the Loire. The Loire River comes from top here and then flows all the way through and then empties out into the Atlantic Ocean. So we're really talking about the upper kind of a tip of the Loire River. So is it Loire? But not really. Like if you ask people in Loire, they don't even think of this as Loire. They're like, oh, that's close to Burgundy. That's more like Rhone. That's not really Loire. So people don't really, you know, um, claim Auvergne or this area as Loire, even though a lot of people talk about this area being part of Loire. So if you guys remember Mary Taylor's wine from Saint Pourcent, it wasn't one of the four wines, but it was in the case cup that was featured. I featured a Gamay from Pourcent, Saint Pourcent. That's right here. This is Saint Pourcent. Mary Taylor herself calls it a Loire wine, but again, it's not really Loire. We're talking about Sancerre's right here. It's just like a darker green. So this is the Loire Valley with a darker green, but when it comes up north, it's just right here. As you can see, it's very close to Beaujolais, right? This is Beaujolais, so we're just talking about. We're gonna spend 12 weeks just diving deep into this one little region called Beaujolais. It's very close to Beaujolais. This is like 45 miles, 50 miles. So we're talking about like distance between here and Baltimore, essentially. Very, very close. And then it grows the grape of Beaujolais, which is Gamay. This is what really Auvergne, this area is known for. The Gamay. The Gamay that grows here is very close, but it's a little bit different. It's called Gamay Saint-Romain. It's just a cousin of a Gamay that grows in Beaujolais. It just ripens a little bit later. Its phenolic ripeness gets riper a little bit sooner. So it's just a little bit different, but pretty much the same as the indigenous variety that's grown here called Gamay Saint-Romain, which is what this area is known for. But it's also very close to Rhone. This is northern Rhone. This is Côte Rôtie, Condrieu, all those places that we talked about when we went to Rhone. Again, very close. So you see some Syrah, Chardonnay from Burgundy also coming into this region. But really what this region is known for is the Gamay Saint-Romain, which is the indigenous variety that grows here. But you will find some Syrah and Chardonnay thrown in here as well. But here, the Côte Roannaise, where we are, is right here around the town of Roanne, which is what this region is named after, Côte Roannaise. Côte means the hillside of Roanne. It's basically where we are. Just underneath here is Côte du Forez, again, known for their Gamay-based or Gamay Saint-Romain-based wines. But what this whole Auvergne area is really known for, or what it's characterized by, is the volcanoes. There's a lot of volcanoes that surround this region. And then because that volcanic eruption, this is at a higher altitude. So compared to Sancerre or even Rhone and Beaujolais, this is at a higher altitude. So we're talking about more acid-driven, leaner. But particularly when you come to Roanne, which also is probably because of proximity to Beaujolais, there's a lot of granite that shows up here. And as we know, for those of you who've done Beaujolais box, Gamay does really well in granite, unlike the limestone that exists up in here in Burgundy. Here is mostly all granite with some volcanoes that's thrown in, right? Places like Morgon and Côte de Bruy, that's all volcanic soil that's thrown in, basalt. It's the same kind of a composition that starts to show up here in Roanne. Here in Côte du Forez, just south of it, is pretty much 100% volcanic soil. So this is actually kind of fun thing to taste, to do a Beaujolais Gamay versus a Roannaise Gamay versus Côte de Forez Gamay grown in 3 different soil types, just to kind of see what that does. But again, very similar, but neither Beaujolais or Rhone Valley really claims this area as their own as well. So it's just kind of like a, I don't know, very unpopular. No one really claims it. It kind of stands on its own, unpopular area. Really fitting for Do You Even Go Here month. So this is where we are this month. So this week. So and particularly right here is where this wine comes from. So who makes this wine? These people. It's a husband and wife team. Oh, by the way, I talked about soil, but the climate here also is still very continental. Obviously, it being quite inland, right? Sancerre here, really, really continental area, meaning it gets quite hot in the summer, really cold in the winter. Same thing kind of stays here as well, especially being a higher elevation. It gets quite cold in the wintertime here as well. So continental climate, volcanic soil, granite soil, patches of granite soil showing up in parts of it, particularly around here, around Rouen, is what this area is characterized by. People who make this wine are these people. Domaine Serol. So the Serol family has owned this kind of a polycultural farm. It's not just vineyard. They have animals that they raise. They have fruit orchards. They have a vegetable farm as well. So they grow a bunch of shit. And it's been in the Serol family since the 17th century. So they've had this land for quite a bit of time. Stefan, which is the guy on the left of the Serol family, took over the estate from his father in 1996 when it was only 12 hectares. But then again, they grew a bunch of other stuff. A lot of it wasn't actually grapes. They grew a lot of other vegetables and fruit, but he really wanted to get into wine, and he saw the potential of this area for wine. So along with his wife's help, this is Corinne. So Stefan and Corinne, they actually selected potential kind of a selective plots on their land that was particularly high in granite content and high in altitude up in the top of the hill. And they actually cleared the fields and planted the vineyards themselves with the local grape variety, Domaine Saint-Romain, that I mentioned. And that's what they kind of dedicated themselves to doing, which is really make wine with a sense of place. Sure, Gamay is made in Beaujolais, Gamay is made in Côte de Forez, Gamay is made in Loire as well, but he really saw an opportunity to make wine, or Gamay really express his family's land, the Côte Roannaise, through the lens of Gamay, and that's what they've been focusing on all this time. So this is what we're tasting today is kind of their entry level stuff. They make single vineyard bottlings on top of it, which are phenomenal stuff. I guess much darker and more serious. But this is an excellent entry into their style of wine that they make, which is always kind of fresh, really pure, and just a ton of kind of that mineral backbone that runs through in the back, while maintaining all that ripeness and not sacrificing any of it. They converted a whole family vineyard or family land from organic and now to biodynamic. So they're both certified organic as well as certified biodynamic. And just as a kind of a token of their fame, or just kind of a pride that they always talk about, is I don't know if you guys know a chef named Michel, which is a really hard word to say in English, is a Troigros. I'll type it in the chat box because my pronunciation is garbage. Michel Troigros. He's considered one of the godfather chefs of the French Nouvelle cuisine. He has been featured in Anthony Bourdain's show in the past, where Anthony Bourdain goes to the restaurant and eats. It's his 2 brothers that run the restaurant now. But anyways, he's a Michelin 3-star restaurant. It's based in Rouen. And then he's a diehard defender of this grape, the Gamay Saint-Romain, as well as the particular work. He's a big fan of the Serol family's work, the wine that they make. So they actually purchased a, plot of vineyard or plot of land together and then planted a vineyard in Roannaise, and they make a special cuvee that they only serve at his restaurant. Just give you an idea of how much this family and their wines are well regarded and well thought of in the area. So, anyways, not that just because some chef really likes it doesn't mean the wine is the greatest, but just another token of fame that you can throw out there. So what is this wine? It's 100% certified by Dynamic Gamay Saint Romain, I mentioned. Average age of this thing is 80 years old. So we're talking about quite a bit of old vines that are thrown in here. All hand harvested from various plots. So I mentioned they got more premier bottling. They're all single vineyards. So this is a kind of blend of different plots that they blend together to kind of make a, overall family style, if you want to, if you will, of Côte Rhônaise. Similar to the beaujolais, where we talk about carbonic maceration, right? Whole bunch, leaving the grape bunches uncrushed, and then letting the fermentation start enzymatically, intracellularly from the inside of the grapes and expands out. So they do that with a 25%. So it's 25% whole bunch. It's quite interesting. What they do is they layers kind of sandwich whole bunch and then destem berries, whole bunch, destem berries. So they are all these things. And then 15 to 18 days, spontaneous fermentation in cement tank. And then it's aged 6 to 10 months further in that same cement tank, and then racked off, and then light filtration and just a touch of sulfites before being bottled. And I forgot to tell you about this picture, which is picture you might have saw earlier while we're skipping through. But this is their cellar. So these are the actual cement tanks that they make the wine in. They are starting to experiment with the amphora. These are all new amphoras they just got. So it'd be curious to see how they turn out. I'm yet to taste their amphora wines, but I've tasted a lot of their cement wines, and which are all fantastic. But yeah, this is where this wine is made. But compared to Beaujolais, and I'll let you be the judge of. Actually, we'll talk about that at the end. After we've all tasted it, after you formed your own opinion about the wine, then let's talk about, especially for those of you who've done Beaujolais for a few years, your kind of impression of this wine and how it's different from some of the Beaujolais that we've tasted in the past. Yeah. So, any questions about anything that I just went over before we get into the tasting? Cool. Let's taste the wine. Who wants to take the appearance? Mm.
I'll do it.
All right. Take us through.
All right. This wine is, it is dark in here, but I think it's clear.
Okay.
Intensity, I would say deep.
Yeah, I mean it's like it's pretty hard to see. I mean it's at least medium. Mine is my light is super bright, so I can kind of see it. But yeah.
The more I had in my glass earlier, it was impossible to see through, but now I've got like a tasting amount in there, and it's I can see like the edges.
So yeah, somewhere between medium, bordering on deep, but definitely not like a pale light colored wine. Like it's got some color here for sure.
Yeah.
Color?
Okay, I took this because I have a question.
Okay.
Anytime I see like magenta, I think purple. But I feel like that's not what purple is.
Yeah, so this to me is about like a textbook definition of ruby.
Ruby, okay.
Yeah. That purple, like the bluish tinge that you see in the grape, it's not very common. There are only very few grapes where you kind of get to see that, and most notable, probably the most popular one, is Malbec. So if you get a Malbec, you see what that bluish tinge in the wine really looks like. There's a lot of purple running through. Some Cabernet, especially when it's young, can throw off some of that too. But Malbec is really the one that kind of gives off that color. But this, just for help you calibrate, this is definitely ruby for sure.
Okay, perfect. So this is a medium-ish, maybe deep ruby.
Yeah.
I don't see any sediment. I have the worst lighting right now. I don't see any sediment, but I could just not be able to see it.
Yep. No sediment, nothing. Yeah, pretty clear.
No bubbles.
New bubbles.
And we don't talk about tears.
That's right. Good job. You get to nominate the next person for the notes.
Oh, okay. Does anybody want to volunteer? Okay, I'm gonna pick Michel Conway. You are the next name on my list.
All right, Michelle. You haven't done this in a while, Michelle.
I'm gonna have to pass. I don't have the wine open. I'm just listening along.
Okay, let's go with who's on camera. Sherice.
Okay.
All right, let's do this.
Okay, it's clean.
Wine is definitely clean. Sound for sure. Intensity?
I almost would call this a medium plus.
Yeah.
Because it's coming. It's not pronounced, but it's definitely on the edge of pronounced for me.
Yeah, agreed. 100% agree with that medium plus call. It's like right here. It's intense. It's aromatic for sure.
What's next?
What do you smell?
I smell black fruit, red fruit. But the first thing I got, and I know it's not in order, I got a flintiness off of it that's driving me like nuts. It was the first thing that walked in my mouth.
Totally.
My nose.
There's a ton of minerality running through here for sure. It's like flinty, smoky, kind of like, like if you ever took like two rocks and like crush it together, or if you ever play with a lighter and then like smell that afterwards, like that kind of thing. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's exactly what I thought about.
Yeah.
But a ton of like blackberry, strawberry.
Yeah, a lot of it's like a berry salad over here.
Yeah, or like bramble or something like that.
Definitely a bramble. This is where, if you ever wonder what bramble is like, this is it. Like a British brambly kind of thing. Like this is bramble. This is just like ton of berry salad here. Do you get any floral here?
Now I'm getting a little florality, but not a lot. It's very faint. And it could be the currants that's throwing it off for me, because I'm smelling black currants. But I don't smell any like a big bouquet or anything, but maybe like some crushed violets or something.
Yeah, exactly. I get violet here. I get violet. I mean, you could convince me this is rose there as well, but to me, like, just that kind of like bluish flower kind of a thing going on here, for sure. Violet, and then just ton of this red and black fruit. I get both red and black on this thing. It's not just the
black, I can even smell a little blueberry.
Yeah.
The condition of the fruit is definitely ripe. What am I missing? I'm getting some spice, like black pepper.
Yeah, I think there's like a little Chernow pepper mill, like for sure. I get like a little spice note in here as well. Agreed.
And I don't know if that's I think that's it, but I feel like I'm getting like even some green notes.
Yeah.
Or something else on it. It's really big, is what I'm saying.
There's a lot. Yeah, it's giving off a lot. It's quite aromatic. To me, it's not green. Like to me, this wine is very, very ripe. Like the fruit quality is super ripe, not overripe, not like stewy or jammy ripe,
No,
but like it's ripe,
juicy. It's
juicy,
juicy
exactly.
like a yeah.
Yeah, juicy berry salad bramble. Ripe. It's just basically what we're getting here.
Yeah, a touch, David. Yes, a little touch of VA, but not like an Italian VA.
Yeah.
But it's got some fake VA on it.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, agree with that little black pepper call here. There's a little layer of spice here for sure. And then yeah, the Flint we were talked about. Like there's just it's interesting to me that there's so much fruit going on here, and that the fact that you can still get there's just so much minerality also written through. Is fantastic.
Yeah, actually, that was the first thing that came to me. I don't know.
Yeah, excellent. Any secondary, tertiary thing here?
I think you could convince me that there's like some chocolate on it.
Something dark like a cocoa nib. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
cocoa nib chocolate or something like that.
yeah, to me, this is where I kept going back and forth. I called it, agree with you, call on the black pepper thing. But initially I was like, is there some like not like a new oak thing, but like maybe some of these like spices, but I think you were that cocoa nib kind of a thing. I think it's actually I quite recall actually. I don't like that. Cool. But yeah, I'm gonna stick with a black pepper. There's definitely some spice here for sure. It's not just okay. Anything in a secondary, tertiary developed aromas?
I think that's it that I smell.
Yeah, me too.
I think that's enough.
Yeah, there's a lot going on here. All right, cool. Good job. You get to pick the next person for the palette.
Julia and Dan, y'all want to go?
Sure, we can go.
All right.
All right. Okay. This wine is dry.
Very. Yep.
Very dry.
It's got some acidity. I don't know if it's medium or medium plus.
Yeah, I think medium.
I'll call this medium myself as well.
Yeah.
Medium acid, tannin.
Tannin. I mean,
it has tannin. It's a really like
it's
smooth.
really
tannin.
smooth, yeah.
So I don't know. That's maybe putting me off. It's either medium minus or medium, but I
think it's medium at least.
It's just so smooth.
Yeah, the texture, like the mouthfeel of this one is really, really velvety. But there's definitely tannin here. I'll call this about like medium minus, maybe bordering on medium if you want to do it, but like there's not a whole lot. It's just enough grip there.
Yeah.
To let you know that it's not just like a quaffable porch pounder. Like there's a bit of a structure here for sure. So yeah, I'll call this medium minus 2. Alcohol, what would you call this? Try to get some percentage.
12.5.
Yeah, that's kind of what it drinks to me, like 12.5. Yeah, 12.5, which is smack in the dab, perfect medium.
Yeah.
Body.
Again, I think medium.
I think it's got some weight to it. Like between the acidity and the tan, like I think it's medium plus, maybe.
I'll go as far as a medium
or whatever.
plus.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'll call this medium. It's kind of like a right in the medium territory here. All throughout. But yeah, it has some weight. It's not like a just watery. It's got some weight. So medium for sure. Moves around to talk about flavor intensity.
I mean, I don't know. I think it's medium plus.
Yeah, agreed. Just not shy. It's
Yeah.
so aromatic and so expressive. Yeah, totally agree with the medium plus. Do you agree with all the things that Sherice called out? Is there anything else you get? Anything you don't get?
I definitely agree with the black fruit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I don't know how much red. I mean, maybe more like a dark, like a black cherry or a dark cherry.
Yeah. Yeah.
I get some of the flintiness.
Yeah, the minerality.
I don't really get the black pepper. I smell it, but I don't get it on the palate really.
Yeah, you know,
Yeah.
I call it black pepper, but again, I keep going back. Well, there's black pepper, maybe some of the clove, maybe it's
Yeah,
that
like
coconut.
there's
It's like
still,
there's
like
something there.
there's something like, I don't want to, it's like, I can't tell if it's like savory or if it's earthy that's different from, that's like different from the minerality. Like there's
Yeah.
something
Okay.
rich there that I'm like, I can't really pinpoint.
Yeah, there's something little meaty about this, like almost like
Mhm.
a peppered meat kind of a thing.
Yeah, like a
Something-
smokiness or something.
Yeah, smoky, peppery, kind of like meat thing going on here, which I get. And now that I've tasted it, I get a little bit of this kind of like, maybe this is the violet that's coming through, but like even like lavender, like lavendery kind of like that herbaceous herbal thing. Like again, not a whole lot, but I
Yeah,
guess some of that kind of
Yeah.
a pretty floral component to this wine as well. Yeah, it's beautiful. It's just got like many different layers of it, like just a little bit of that kind of like a flowery, then it's got this kind of peppery, smoky, meaty,
Yeah.
flinty, savory thing, and then just a ton of just ripe, juicy fruit that's going on. So it's like layers of different things, which
yeah,
is super cool. But yeah, I agree. Like to me, on the palate, just strikes me as much more black, much darker,
Right.
blacker fruit than on the red fruit. But like, I still get like really ripe, like raspberry and some of these things in there as well. So cool. Any secondary, any tertiary, any developing or developed aromas for Fleming?
I mean, again, like I said, yeah, I mean, like the kind of secondary in terms of like, I don't know if there's this like earthiness or, like this kind of, I wouldn't really call it baking spices, but there's just like something, there's something there with them. Yeah.
Yeah,
No tertiary.
agreed. I mean, there's some of these things we call that like a meaty, kind of smoky meaty kind of a thing, but that's not really into tertiary. I mean, this is a very
Right,
young
right.
wine. It's a fresh, youthful wine. It's not
Right.
meant to be that. So, if anything, it is probably the secondary thing. But yeah, there's something savory going on here that's not just the fruit. But yeah, ton of that fruit, ton of that bramble. Finish. How long do the flavors last?
Hmm.
Not a super long finish. Would say medium.
Yeah.
I think it's medium plus. Like, I feel like it's like on the finish where I get some of the like complex, more like.
I get it more like as I breathe out through my nose. It's like,
Yeah.
I still keep getting a lot of that. I'm gonna call this medium plus as well myself. So medium to medium plus, as long as you're not calling this short and nothing, where we or medium minus, we're good. All right, take it home for us. How good is this wine? Would you age it?
I think it's good to very good.
Why? Tell me.
It's really complex.
Yeah, it's got a lot going on, complexity wise, balance.
Yeah. It's got
Medium
a strong nose. It's got
Yeah, medium plus length.
Yeah.
Medium plus concentration. Right. So
Yeah.
and if like, complexity wise, sure, we call out a bunch of other things where maybe it's all primary. So maybe you can call it medium, maybe we call it medium plus because there's something more than that. So yeah, it's some everything good and very good, but leaning closer to very good than good. So I would personally call this very good.
I mean, I think it's very good personally.
If you call this good, I think it's a perfectly fine answer. Would you age it?
I think you could. Like it has some tannin, it has
Acidity.
it has acid. So, and it's really complex. So I'd be curious where some of these flavors go. I don't know that you would want to age it for a super long time. But,
Yeah.
you know, like 5 years, I think it would be interesting to see where it goes.
Exactly. Exactly. I said this is probably 5 tops. Their single bottling gets a little more tannic, just so you can age longer. But at the level of tannin it's in now, I just don't know if it's going to last for a very long time. But like you said, Dan, that concentration of that primary fruit, just because there's so much of it, as it ages, it will develop more complexity and get a lot of tertiary things. So I think it'd be interesting to see. But because tannin is not so high and the acid here is not super high either, it's decent. So I would say, I think this is.
What would happen? Sorry, like if you over-aged this, like where do you think? Like what would be like? What would happen?
So what happens as the wine ages and gets past the prime? The
Right.
prime window to drinking wine or aging wine is basically when you can taste, when you have there are 2 reasons. Structurally, sometimes wines are just so tannic. It's just too tough to drink when it's young. The early young.
Yeah. Like, it's like I know like why you age wine to like chill it out a little bit.
Yeah,
right.
There's
like,
that. So there's that reason, but also flavor-wise, as the wine ages, what happens is all these primary things, all this fruit, like the fresh, juicy, brambly fruit that we're talking about, is going to start become either non-fruit things, or it's going to become dried out, like raisins, stewed, that kind of flavors.
Okay.
So the idea is you age it and you catch it right at this peak where you still have plenty of the freshness left, because you still want some freshness in your wine, but you're still getting all these tertiary things that are happening. That's why concentration is important as a variable in aging, because if it's not concentrated enough, there's not enough for it to move. Like it's not going to hold on to the primary as it develops. It's just going to lose everything, right? So the concentration, when there's so much of it, it goes on. Now you have primary, tertiary, secondary, all expressing itself, increasing more complexity. There's just more going on in the wine. But as you go past that point and age it longer, now you lose all that freshness. You lose all that fresh brambly, raspberry, blackcurrant, blackberry, black cherry, all those things you were talking about. And then now you're only going to be left with possibly maybe smoked meat and raisin and prunes and things.
Right.
And maybe if that's your preference, that's fine. But again, your complexity is going down again. So all the flavors have gone from primary to tertiary, but in terms of complexity, it's becoming less complex because you're losing primary notes and everything goes to tertiary.
Okay.
And then the speed at which that happens depends on the acid level, tannin level, and all of that. So we're just taking a guess here that in 5 years, this will kind of hit that kind of optimal window where you see some tertiary develop, as well as still holding a bunch of this freshness. So it's
right. Again, I mean, as we discussed, I do not care for the gambling involved in aging wine, but it's fine. I want it to be an exact science.
Yeah, no, there's no such thing as exact science in wine. But I mean, also aged wine is a hard thing to come by. Like not everybody gets to drink aged wine all that much. So yeah, unfortunately, it's like one of those things that are hard to explain unless you've like experienced it.
I mean, I feel like I've definitely had some like accidentally aged wine and like, places where it was like it was not intentional, right? But
or like, just intentionally
like
beautifully aged
like
wine. That hit that like prime window, just to see what it is. But maybe this is a more reason why you guys should come out to Marty's house next time we're going up there. You get to taste some of the wines. You get to experience what this means.
True.
But anyways, I totally agree with you. I think this is delicious right now. It's fresh. It's ripe. And it's not just like a pound juice, right? Like I mentioned, a little bit of tannin here. little bit of grip. It's really pleasant, velvety, a lot of fruit, really approachable. At the same time, you can drink it with food. It's something you can go back and try to find each different things each time. It's not just like glug glug, like the same glue glue juice. So I say, you know, totally agree with the dance call. 5 years, maybe come back and check it in like 3 years. But I think 3 to 5, I think this can easily age. Yeah, that is my call. Good job, everyone. Any questions about anything?
I had a question.
Lisa. Yeah, what's up?
Is this one, does it taste bitter to you? Like it?
Yeah. Not particularly.
Not particularly. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. Like, is it super bitter for you?
Yeah, it just tastes like bitter. And I'm like, maybe it's the cheese. Maybe it's like, I've been sick, so maybe my palate is off. I don't know what's happening.
Maybe.
But it just tastes a little bitter. I mean, I'm getting all the stuff that you guys are talking about, and I like the wine. It just for some reason, it's like, I'm also like, but it's also bitter. You know, it's just like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what's happening.
Yeah, to me, it doesn't strike. So usually the bitterness comes from the earlier I talked about Gamay Saint Romain. One of the things that's good about or beneficial about this cousin of Beaujolais Gamay is that it reaches phenolic ripeness quite early. So oftentimes when the wine growers are growing their grapes, they make it to a point where fruit and the sugar development has gotten there. There's like optimal window. This is where I want it. The acid level is where I want it. Sugar level is where I want it. But the phenolic, the vegetable, like the vegetal part, the plant part of the grapevine hasn't gotten there yet. And they have to make a call. It's like, do I risk possibly over ripening the grapes in the name of ripening my phenolics? Or do I just harvest now at peak kind of a flavor and sugar level, but possibly risk having maybe a little bit of green, a little bit of really chewy young tannin, or possibly that phenolic bitterness that we talk about. So usually you don't see that whole, I mean, Gamay as a whole, as a grape, it's not a really like a phenolically unripe grape. It can get there, but yeah, I mean, I don't particularly taste that phenolic bitterness on this wine. Some wines I definitely do. Like I taste it, I'm like, oh yeah, there's something happened here, or maybe it was intentional. But yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. Thank you.
Jessica and David, that garrigue. Yeah, this is kind of what I was saying earlier, like that lavendery kind of flowery thing, that Rhone-y herb mix. Yeah, I think that's kind of what I was thinking. Maybe it's not the cloves or pepper, all those spice that we were talking about, that kind of say like something spice going on. Maybe it's the garrigue that I was also thinking. I think that may be a good call here. Also, knowing its proximity to Rhone, again, it may be just a power of association or suggestion, but maybe that's what's happening here. For those of you who are not familiar with what garrigue is, this is like a wild shrub of herbs that grow just in wild everywhere around Rhone. These are like rosemary, lavender, wild thyme, and they just grow everywhere. And they are known to kind of impart their flavors and have influence on a lot of Rhone wines. So Northern Rhone Syrah, Southern Rhone Grenache-based, Grenache dominant blends. They all have these kind of like a garrigue character. And I feel like I'm getting some of that here as well. You know, earlier I was saying violet, and I changed to kind of lavender, but I think garrigue, what Dave is talking about, is the right call here. There's some garrigue character going on here for sure. Is annise, yeah, going into all kind of Sherice like some of that like a green herbaceous thing with a lavender floral. I mean, that is pretty much what garrigue is to the T by definition. So yeah, this is like a Beaujolais meets Rhone, you know, meets like a Loire Valley continental climate kind of a thing. Again, really kind of a unique thing. Very similar, but not so similar. this is where you kind of see the influence of how all these things play a role in the wine's final style. So, how many of you guys like this wine? Just out of curiosity. Is there anyone who did not like this wine? Okay. How much do you think this is on a retail shelf? How much would you be happy paying for this on a retail shelf? Just think about it. Roannaise, no place really nobody knows, right? We called it very good. It is well-known and well-known producer, at least in this region, works with Michel Troigros. But again, nobody goes there. Nobody knows where Roannaise is. So what do you think would be 30, 40? Okay, Shannon. 22, 25, 28, 20, 30, 22, 26, 20, 25, 29, 25, 20, 28, 25, 18, 16. All right. And the answer is, this would be right at $25. So for what we are getting at 25, I think it's a goddamn steal, honestly. For the quality of the wine that we're getting, I think it's a fantastic value. And again, this is why going to places like this and then finding wines like this pays off, because you get to have amazing quality at a fraction of the cost of what you would find in other places. Now, for those of you who've taken Beaujolais box or familiar with the Beaujolais, curious to see your opinion. How is this different from Beaujolais Gamay? How is this hitting you different? Is there some sort of things that you are noticing here that is different, that is the same, more, less of the Beaujolais kind of a thing? I mean, first, what Dave was talking about, that garrigue thing is kind of cool. You don't get that all that often in Beaujolais, but definitely get that here.
It's a lot less earthy to me than
earthy. Okay.
The nose on some of the Beaujolais is very barnyard.
Yeah.
This that at all.
Yeah. Me. Yeah. I mean, this is much cleaner for sure. Yeah. Anyone?
I didn't do Beaujolais box, but I love Beaujolais. I think this is, I agree with that. It's more like fresh, and I think it has more acidity too.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a little more just like crisp and clean.
So, anyone else?
I was gonna say, I think the mineral character is a bit different. Like this is more flinty.
Yeah.
It's less kind of limestone or whatever. I feel like the Beaujolais are kind of a different character.
Anyone else? So, in general, again, this is generalization, huge generalization, right? Obviously, there are different styles that exist within each region, Beaujolais in here as well. But in general, this area, the Auvergne, and particularly going to Loire as well, the Gamay here tend to be a little bit kind of juicier, brighter. Like if you were to use it like a music analogy, there's more treble notes here than there's bass. There's a lot more bass in Beaujolais Gamay. There's a lot more blacker, darker, kind of fill out notes on the bottom, as opposed to here, the things kind of sing at a much higher kind of a thing. And it's because of the grape variety itself, the Gamay Saint-Romain that I talked about, because the phenolics ripen quickly, and because it can ripen, it's a late ripening grape, so it spends longer time hanging on the vine. You never sacrifice the ripeness because it's hanging for a long time, seeing the sunset for a long time. So fruit's getting much riper, which meaning it's juicier, right? And then, but it's never unripe because that phenolic ripeness gets there soon enough that you never get that green herbaceous bitterness, kind of what we're talking about. This is altitude-wise a little bit higher than Beaujolais. So we're talking about cooler climate, so a little bit more acid-driven, a little bit brighter, a little bit lighter. So yeah, I mean, all those things you guys are saying is completely right. But what Dave's point of like that's earthy, more of that, and that's also stylistic wise here as well. I mean, Beaujolais, it's like if you go there, you will know, like it's not like this chateaus and fancy modern wineries laden land. It's like a farmers making their wine in their garage on the side kind of a place. So it's just kind of like a dirty in the best way possible, you know. It's just rustic, much more rustic, and that kind of approach here, as opposed to here where it becomes a little more clean, quote unquote, much more brighter, juicier, higher acid kind of a driven style of Gamay. Not necessarily saying one is better than the other, but it's just the kind of difference. And all that is because the altitude, the climate, the temperature, as well as the grape variety itself. And the reason I'm spending quite a bit of time talking about this is that, like, by knowing all this is how you start to kind of see, you know, how wines, this final style of the wine ends up how it's being. Like, by knowing this, next time you go to another place that's a higher altitude, you get to expect, like, if you had a Syrah from another place that's warmer and a lower altitude, and then you go to some other place and you don't know what to expect, except you know that it's higher up in mountains, it has a less exposure to sun, and you can kind of start to guess what that wine tastes like, right? And then you taste it, and then you realize, oh shit, it is higher in acid, it is leaner, it's not as juicy, you know, all those things. And that's how all these dots start connecting. And afterwards, you have to say things like, hey, I really prefer cool climate wines over warm climate wines, or cooler climate Syrah versus warmer climate Australian Shiraz, because X, Y, and Z reasons. Because I like higher acid, because I like more minerality, because I even like a little more herbaceousness in my wine. Whatever your preference might be, you may be able to start connecting those dots and then be able to express those, articulate those preferences. And at the end of the day, that's the whole point of why we do this. It's not for you to get to like the wines that I like, because we all have different palates, but it's try to get you to understand why you like the things you like and be able to articulate it. So next time you go to purchase wine, you have a higher likelihood that you're going to find something that you're going to like. So that's all. Well, I'm glad you guys all liked it. Any questions? Liz, Hazel, Jesse, you say we didn't love this one. Tell me more.
We had mixed feelings, I think.
Well, it took a while for it to open up for us. I think, like, at first it really was not tasty at the beginning. And then now it's tasting much better.
Yeah.
And the complexity is real. Like, I thought Sherice did a great job with the nose. I thought that was there was a lot there.
Jesse had less positive things to say, I think.
I wouldn't say they're like super negative. I just didn't love the wine.
Okay.
I feel like it isn't like, I know you said 5 years. Maybe it's because it was cold when I had it, but it didn't seem like the structure would last that long. Thought it would be like 3 years tops. Like it just tasted a bit thin to me. But again, it could have been just the flavor profile changed substantially after it warmed up. So
yeah, okay.
But we did Chinese food.
Did it work?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Although it overpowered the pepper, probably.
Yeah, we had some peppery items that, in retrospect, were probably not helpful for the tasting.
Okay. Got it. Yeah, I mean, compared to, especially if you have some sort of reference point of Gamay from Beaujolais, like a cru Beaujolais particularly with this. I mean, I love Dave T's comment, like, this is if you told me this was a Beaujolais Village, I would have believed it. Yeah, I mean, this is much more closer to Beaujolais Village in terms of just like a pure fruit, right? Like, there's not as opposed to like cru Beaujolais, where you start to see a lot more like minerality, a lot more that kind of earthy and different tones, and there's a lot more different layers. To me, this is just really juicy, fruity, like right kind of a gamay, which is kind of a different thing. So yeah, subtle difference, but you know, you start to notice these things as you taste different gamays from different regions. Any other questions? Slight aspirin aftertaste. Huh. Interesting. I don't know. I just love the purity of this thing. It's and you know, oftentimes I come across wines like this that are so fruit driven and pure like this, but then I mean, which is fine, but usually it's just like a porch pounder. It's just like a really easy chuck juice, but here there's a lot more going on here. It's not just that. It can be that, but it's not just that. So, all right. I'm gonna stop the recording.